Hey, good morning. It's episode number 30, Hospitality Live with me, Rupesh. This is a special episode. This is a special time or an unfortunate time that the hotel business is going through. So thank you so much for joining me. And let me bring on our special guest. Hang on real quick. All right. So right next to me is Tammy Gillis, Dr. Cynthia Dougherty, David Arraya, Doug Kennedy, Del Ross. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. This conversation is going to be about how hotels can basically survive and how hotel people can survive through this uncertainty that we have today. So, I wanted to thank you all for joining us, and we have different topics that we're going to talk about. And hang on, make sure that we're good to go here. And all right, so guys, I want to first of all thank the hotel CEOs that were at the White House yesterday talking about how the hotel business can get the support of the government and what we need really. At the end of the day, occupancy is dropping at 10 points per day as new data came out, and on the average occupancy right now is 35% and continuously dropping at our hotels. We are looking at dismal rates. We are in the single digits this weekend, which a lot of hotels are. And I'm sure, guys, let us know where you're listening from and where you're at home right now with your kids because your hotels were shut down last night. They did announce in Nevada that every single hotel, restaurant, basically anywhere that gathers people is pretty much shut down for the next 30 days. So that's pretty tough to hear when, there's so much uncertainty going on right now. And this might come to our market. So we have to be ready. We have to be supportive. And thank you so much to Chip Rogers and Cecil Stanton from their associations for continuously supporting hotel business and, the airline business, the all the other businesses that support us, restaurants, bars that are being shut down. We feel you. We know how it feels. And we're in a hard situation right now. Last week we were happy and things were going well. And all of a sudden this news drops and I feel like a lot of us knew that this might be coming, and we just didn't know that it would be coming this hard and this fast. And we really just have to be there to support kind of all of us. And right now, the only thing that we can control is our mindset and, what we think about. And so we're going to get into a lot of those things and really this conversation's for our entire staff, us as people, sometimes we feel like we're alone. We're doing this by ourselves, but there are people around us that can support us. There are people that are here to support us. Thank you so much to all the wonderful people that are here. We're passionate about this. I posted that the hotel industry is not just about the business, but it's about the people, right? If it wasn't for the people, we would not be here today. None of us would be here, and this is what I'm passionate about. So for the next, hopefully, as long as this lasts, I'm going to continue supporting the people first. And then, we could talk about all the other things that kind of support the industry. Let's get into this conversation. There's a lot of uncertainty this episode, and I want to thank and really, really thank the great people, and Dell's one of them. He's with PerfectLabor at hoteleffectiveness.com/Rupesh. Thank you so much for sponsoring this show and in the past shows. I really appreciate the support. Without you guys, I would not be able to do this because it takes time, effort, and money to do this. So thank you so much to the Hotel Effectiveness team and their Perfect Labor platform. We'll get into that more of that a little bit later. But guys, let's talk about what's going on right now. They're saying people in all the conversations, guys, let us know what your occupancy is. Are you feeling an effect? Comment where you're watching from, what you're experiencing at your hotel, because, there's people reading and watching this online, and there are going to be people watching this afterwards too. So your content, your conversation on this topic with your comments are going to help other people so they don't feel like they're alone. And, the number one thing I feel like is our mindset that we can control. And Dr. Cynthia Dougherty is here to kind of talk about the fears and kind of the frustrations and how we can kind of get over it. So, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. A lot of people have been messaging me saying, I just lost my job, or I've had to fire a lot of people, or lay off a lot of people, not fire, I'm sorry, lay off a lot of people or furlough people. What do you say, and what can we share with these folks that are don't know where to go and they're lost and they're fearful of the future. How can we kind of assure them?
Yes, thanks. I think I just wanted to also agree with you in the sense that people have to understand they're not alone. I think that's really a huge part of all this. We're all in it together, and that we're not responsible. Sometimes we tend to have a tendency to think that we're somehow responsible for all these things that are going on. In this particular case, that's not true at all. And the key to resiliency is understanding how your brain and your brain works. So I work a lot with rewiring brains. That's in terms of I'm a performance coach for that. And I think that the one we talk social distancing, and I think it's so important that it's a physical distancing. It's not an emotional distancing, and I think that's really so imperative right now with the theme that we're all here together. But that we also have to understand if you change your thinking, then you're changing your life. And so our brains have evolved over millions and millions of years, and we tend to have this negative biasy. So our brains sort of work against us in a situation like this. It just adds to your fear because our brains are lazy and we love repetitive patterns and we love sort of being in a comfort zone. Getting out of that zone brings us fear and anxiety, and that's how we rewire and change our brains. So instead, we tend to have an emergency situation or a situation we feel out of control. Immediately, the chemicals in our body go right to our brain and increase that anxiety and that fear. And so it's telling us, our mind is telling us certain things that are just not true. And so part of the rewiring or really understanding ourselves is that inner chatter that's kind of constantly in your ear is really giving you fake news. It's not always giving you the best reliable advice or information for you. For example, some people will say to themselves, I'll never get over this, or this will never end, or my life will never be the same. And those are pretty daunting things to tell yourself. And it's all that chatter that's telling you this because it's taking you back into that negative fearful pattern. And so then we tend to isolate ourselves. And we're also calling this social isolation. And the worst thing people could do right now is isolate themselves from other people and
Right.
get themselves into a state of helplessness and hopelessness.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And a lot of people are messaging me saying, "Listen, I've had to lay people off. I've just lost my position. I don't know where to go." And guys, you've survived 100% of your downtime or your downfall. Look at all the stuff that we've had in the past: 9/11, 2008 crash. You are still here. You survived, right? And you're going to survive in the future. And that's kind of what we need to put in our mindset, that hey, this isn't the end of life. This isn't the end of everything that's happening to us. And I think we continue prospering and prospering our mind and kind of controlling our mind. And I was saying in the beginning that the only thing you can really control right now is your relationships, your mindset, right? And then how you treat everybody else. And I posted about this last week and I got so much great feedback from that. And really, these are the things that you can control. So for you to control other things as hotel people that you don't have control over, it's just going to take you over that edge and make you feel really bad about yourself and what you're doing in pretty much in life. And I've been there before because I've had that mindset where like I want to control everything, but you can't. And so what do we say to those people?
I think you have to go back to a time where something wasn't going well for you and really dig into some of those feelings of how that gritty feeling that you got through some of that in a successful way. Think of that fire in your belly when those things were not doing well for you, and that you did get through that, and that this is not the end. It's really the beginning of some great opportunities that maybe you're not even really thinking about that can come your way, because sometimes these lessons are really blessings in disguise, and that really you can use this time to reinvent yourself in an interesting way. So, but part of that is going back to those events in your life where you, again, you had that fire and in your belly, and that you had the grit to move forward, and then how that felt after. Those the positive feelings of how that ended for you in a positive way. will help also change that mindset that we're pairing these negative feelings with more positive feelings to get you farther ahead. So, for example, surrounding yourself with people who are in that negative space is not going to help you right now. If you're hanging out with a lot of people that are doom and gloom and are just, you guys are in this thinking together, that's not the best crowd for you to hang out with. And what you think is what you bring. So if all of you guys just think of all the negative, that's all you're going to continue to bring yourself. You need to surround yourself with more positive people, or people that at least are using coping skills such as meditation or breathing. Breath is so important for everyone right now. Taking 3 deep breaths and slowly exhaling really changes those chemicals in your body in a wonderful way. And finding things that make you happy, whether it's listening to music. There's nothing that says we can't take a walk. Being physical is so important right now. If we're just sitting down and not giving our bodies any physical activity, that is, again, not a good thing that I would advise anyone to do. You need to find ways to get the dopamine in your body up and moving around. And that takes physical activity. Sometimes maybe it's watching a favorite show on TV. For me, I love watching carpool karaoke. It just makes me laugh. Some mornings I start my morning after I do my gratitudes. I do gratitudes every morning. I watch him because he makes me laugh. And that is how we're bringing up our energy levels and our mindset in a positive way. And also remember, what you sleep, what you go to bed with your thoughts is what your brain marinates all night long. If you're laying in bed all night long thinking of all the negative outcomes or how bad you feel, and then you're going off to sleep all night long, that's just marinating in your brain. And you're going to start off your day the exact same how you ended it, in a very negative space. So it's really important. Call a friend, video chat. We have this lovely thing with videos, so that if you can't go on a date, or you can see family and friends at a distance, we have this wonderful capability of being able to go live anytime we want to. Start support groups with hotels. I think it would be great for employees to have regular support meetings with one another and really understand the emotion of where everybody is, and offering positive suggestions that are working for someone else that might work for you as well. So sharing is caring. You really need to bump it up with this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, there's a lot of things that we can do. And I think they'll start with ourselves and our mindset. So thank you so much, Dr. Cynthia Dougherty. Great content as far as just, it's going to get better. Stay strong. We need to support each other. And guess what? All of us are here to support you. If you're feeling lonely, send me a message directly on LinkedIn right here, and we'll talk. And, maybe we'll even jump on a phone call where you just share what you're going through, because sometimes it's like guests when they're at a hotel and they complain about something, they just want to be heard. Right. And so the same thing for yourself. You just want to be heard. Maybe you're feeling lonely, or you don't know where to go as far as maybe a question that you have. Send people messages. You're not alone. So thank you so much for this conversation. I think it's great. And next we go to David Arraya. He is a hotel manager at the Four Seasons in Austin, Texas. David, your city has been just been hit hard with so many different events getting canceled, and South by Southwest, and so many different events that are coming to that market, especially right now where spring comes up, and then you have so many different events happening. What's going on the hotel operation side? Because I know that's a very important, as far as, we're almost ready to shut our doors if we get into these occupancies, 1%, 5%, 10%, we can't afford that. So what's going on the hotel front?
Yeah, thank you, Rupesh. I'm happy to be here having this conversation with everyone. And I have to agree with Dr. Dougherty here. The insight she brings is fantastic, and I'll allude to that here in a second. But the situation's pretty glum, definitely, right? Occupancy levels are at an all-time low, and we were expecting to have the busiest week of the year with South by Southwest this week, right? So it's incredible how things have quickly changed and how business has evaporated. But we continue to stay strong. We're a very resilient industry. You posted about this a few days ago about how we are so resilient in the way we tackle things. And I think it's really important that we keep that in consideration, and particularly us leaders in the hospitality industry. We have to remember and recognize that during these times, this is when we have to show up the most, right? And our teams look up to us, and you know, as you do, you know, when you're on an airplane and there's turbulence, everybody looks at the flight attendant, right, to see how that person's going to react, right? And everybody on our team and our guests and the city and the community, everybody's looking at us as our leadership teams and seeing how we're reacting to the situation, right? And so for us, it's really about taking care of our people, because that's the business we're in, right? And so first and foremost, taking care of our employees, making sure that we're making decisions and we're having tough conversations, right? Every single day we're having conversations about keeping jobs or furloughing or laying people off, right? That's what's happening in the industry, and it's the reality. And restaurants and bars are going through the same thing in town. For us, it's really making sure that our ownership groups are fully aware of the situation we're in, and that we're making decisions that are in the best interest in the long term for the hotel, in the long term for the industry, and in the long term for our employees, right? At some point we will ramp back up, and at some point the business will come back, and we've seen this over and over again. So it's important that we make decisions that are going to be long-term decisions for our team. And then the second thing is controlling what we can control in the hotel, right? We're still in the business of creating experiences for our guests, right? So even though we may not have a restaurant and a bar open at the time, we have to be creative, and we have to find ways to offer that service to our guests, right? So beefing up our room service offerings and offering daily specials for guests that are going to be here for a little bit longer, right? Making sure that we're protecting our team, and that although we don't have the opportunity to really, you know, go through social distancing per se in the hotel, you know, making sure that everybody understands that, you know, after they're here at the hotel, they go straight home, right? And they don't go and do 2-3 other things and then come back home, right? And making sure that they're responsible in that regard, and that they realize that, you know, the guests depend on them being responsible as well, right? And providing a format for meetings that are typically done in person to be done in virtual environments, right? Making sure that if you're going to have any sort of contact with a guest, that it's absolutely minimal contact, that we use the technology we have in place, and that we actually encourage our guests to use that technology for any transactional activity, right? Checking in, checking out, checking their bill, anything that typically is done with a conversation at the front desk, for example, is typically a transaction that can be done with technology. And so really limiting the number of interactions that we have, while still keeping the standards that we have in place, right? And so it's controlling what we can control, staying positive, keeping our chin up, and recognizing that, you know, these are tough times, but they're going to pass as well, and we need to stay resilient and strong.
Right, and these are signs of great leadership. These are signs that you're doing, you're caring. Right now, you know, you work for the Four Seasons in Austin, Texas, but what about the independent hotels or the smaller hotels? How can they leverage technology to kind of communicate to their guests when they can't they don't have this big system, they don't have this whole technology platform in place where they can contact guests and kind of, you know, do that social distancing themselves?
Sure. Well, I think, you know, being very kind of open about the use of PPE, right? Personal protective equipment, right? There's nothing wrong with wearing a mask. There's nothing wrong with, you know, utilizing gloves. One thing we do that we started right away was we put together a sanitation crew that actively walks through the hotel and just sanitizes every surface, right? Those are the type of things that guests will see. They'll feel more comfortable with the fact that you're doing these type of things. Plenty of signage around the hotel explaining why you're doing things, explaining how they can minimize interaction with your employees and the reason why you're doing that. Phone calls. I think, you know, people nowadays are afraid of picking up a phone. Well, they're going to have to learn how to pick up the phone again, right? And so something as simple as a phone call to the guests the night before they're checking out, just giving them some details about their bill and what they have, and see if they want to make any changes, can go a long way, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be the use of a very fancy app, but something as simple as a phone call will go a long way.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And, you know, there's also tools and technologies that most people use, and, you know, from the social side of things, you can use Facebook Messenger. So if your hotel has a Facebook account, hey, message us directly. Most people are on Facebook. Message us directly if you need anything as far as towels or anything as far as hotel related amenities or services. Let us know through Facebook. Also, WhatsApp. If their hotel has a cell phone or a line that's connected to a WhatsApp account, you could definitely communicate there. And most people are on WhatsApp, and it's free. And I love that platform where you can kind of connect with via video on WhatsApp too. So there's definitely plenty of ways. And I like that you talked about the crew going around sanitizing the hotel. There's different parts of the hotel right now that are being closed. I've talked to plenty of owners where they're saying the pool's closed, the gym's closed, breakfast is limited. There's a lot of things that have been cut as far as services, amenities at the hotel. And there are some opportunities for the staff and the guests to be safe. So if your hotel is serving coffee or has muffins or has a limited breakfast, you could potentially have a note up there saying, and by the way, when they're checking in, you have to let them know these limited services so they don't expect a full breakfast in the morning or an open restaurant or all the things they expected when they booked the hotel. Now, I'm sure most guests now understand that there is this urgency to have the social distancing. So we actually got rid of all the chairs in our breakfast area, or at least to turn them down where nobody can sit down and they understand. And then we also explain where, please go back to your room after getting your coffee, because it is essential that, we're keeping distance along, from each other. And then also everyone wear gloves. So from housekeeping, wearing gloves, the entire shift to the front desk to breakfast hosts, everybody needs to be wearing gloves, because you're passing things on, you're passing credit cards, you're passing money, you're typing on the keyboard. There's a lot of things that could transmit, and you want to be safe. And so these are the things that we're doing. David, what else can hoteliers or hotel managers or any hotel person do to kind of protect themselves and their guests?
Well, I think from an overall change, right, that we're going through, I think one big thing is to be very open-minded, because as Dr. Dougherty was mentioning, you have two options, right? You can either see everything as it's the end of the world, and it's called the path of limitation, right? You're looking at every obstacle, or you can see it as the path of opportunity. And that's the way we're trying to kind of share the information with our team and saying, our number one objective is that everybody is allowed to keep their jobs and continues to have benefits. That's the number one thing that we're pushing for, right? Will it last forever? Who knows, right? We don't know what this situation is going to bring us. But for now, be very flexible into what you're willing to do, right? You may be washing dishes. You may be cleaning sidewalks. You may be sanitizing around the hotel. You may be doing things that you're not used to doing, right? And it's the same for our leadership team. And so that's the message I would just say, I would just bring is, we are going to have to do things that we haven't done before, right? And it's important that we come at it with a very positive mentality, right? And then just going back quickly to the point that, we've been through this before. Well, it's important to recognize that we have 5 generations in the workplace right now. And we have many people that have not been through this before, right? We have people that were not in the workplace during September 11th, during 9/11, right? And so they don't know what it's like to be in a recession or in a downturn. All they know is the last 5 years that have been all excited, happy and fun, and they love their job every single day. So it's important to take those people that have been through these situations in the past and to have them share their stories too, right? And that's one of the things we're doing. We're fortunate that we have all 5 generations represented in our workplace, and we're relying on those people that have been through these situations to share their stories, to share how it was difficult, but how also we've surpassed it, right? And how they got past it, and how they also learned from the situation and saw that path of opportunity, right? And so I think that's helping the younger people that are in our workplace, who are the people that I'm most excited to share this type of information with, because I want them to understand that, there are people that have done this 2, 3, 4 times, right? And this is your first, but it probably won't be your last. So it's important to learn from it as well, right? As Dr. Dougherty mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much. Hang on a second. Thank you so much, David, Arraya, for your feedback and operations. And guys, we're all going to get together a little bit later at the end and talk about some topics that are coming up on a lot of questions. A lot of people are saying that, they're bagging breakfast to go. They're being safe, make sure everyone's washing their hands like they've been saying. Make sure you're not touching your face. Make sure you're not shaking hands. Make sure we're keeping that distance and letting guests know that, over the weekend, a lot of people are still, out at spring break partying in the clubs and stuff like that. And, the government saying we really need to the reason why they cut down on all the bars and restaurants this weekend or the past few days is because people still don't understand that you can't have groups. Even if you're young, you can't have groups getting together because guess what? If one person has it, they could spread it to somebody else. But it's not even that because young people are less susceptible from getting the virus and contracting it and then passing away or being more affected. But it's the older generation, so they might go back to their homes in local areas and be in contact with their mom, their family members, or somebody else, or they come back to work at the hotel and guess what? Now they've affected a bunch of other people. So that's the reason why a lot of businesses are doing that social distancing. And when businesses don't understand, the government has to step in and say, listen, we need to stop this. And so I feel bad for the hotel owner, or bad for the club owners and bars and restaurants, because I know they're hurting just like we are. I know their team, their hospitality team is affected and they're out of jobs or limited service staff, all those things, but we have to continue going. And a lot of times people are coming to the front desk, and that's where Doug Kennedy comes on. Doug, thank you so much for joining us. You're great at so many different things. You are passionate about the front desk sales. Talk to us about how the front desk can kind of optimize themselves right now during this uncertain time.
Thanks, Rupesh. And first of all, thank you for having this show today. I think it's going back to Dr. Dougherty's point. It's great to know for everyone watching and for us panelists that we're not alone. And also to David's point, we have been through this, at least some of us, and it's a great point that younger people have not. Even a soft market in the Great Recession. So my space is training front desk, also hotel reservations. We have a lot of resort clients all around the world that are having various degrees of impacts. I just got back from a 2-week training trip in Hawaii. I'm sure glad to be back, but it was really just hitting while we were there. And I was of the mindset, it's just a bad flu. But now, to your last point, Rupesh, the thing that really hit with me, something that I saw someone said yesterday is, I'm young, thank goodness, relatively young, not as young as some, but healthy. And I'm frankly not that concerned about catching it. However, somebody said yesterday, think of yourself not worried about catching it, but of giving it to someone else, the immune compromised, the elderly, the young. So I think we do have to spread that message to the younger people. Just to recap a couple of things that I thought were excellent comments, Dr. Dougherty, thank you for reminding us we're not alone. I think that's an important message. I love your suggestion of support groups. For the hotels that have complete closures, we have people, just imagine all the camaraderie, and that's my other space, of course, besides the sales training and the hotel reservations and hotel group sales, and then of course a big focus on hospitality. And I picture bellmen, doormen, lobby attendants, all concierges that just love each other and have that family relationship, that are either on cutbacks, laid-offs, or furloughs or closed hotels, and they're sitting at home alone without that connection. And I think that is a great group, a great idea to maybe organize Facebook groups for within the hotel. So, some people use Facebook Workplace, which is something that I highly suggest. I also like your idea of exercising and being mindful. These are really great things that, we as leaders, to David's point, I do look at that flight attendant. Well, I don't anymore. I think I have close to 2 million miles total, but I remember being an early flyer. Now, actually, they're looking to me because they can probably tell I'm the guy working on a laptop with the, million-miler tag, the people that are flying when the plane is turbulent. So this is our time. To my area specifically that you asked me to join in on, with regards to front desk, we had 2 different situations here at the hotels that are either closed, cutting back, laying off, furloughing. I think that point's been well addressed. And I want to come back to that because I want to finish up by talking about the recovery, because there will be one. But the other hotels that are open, I really think, first of all, there's going to be a lot of hospitality hero stories coming out of this. Of course, we want to keep them safe, hand washing, gloves. You know, I don't know, the gloves to me, I mean, that's great, but then the gloves get dirty. But so we have to really, the hygiene, I love the idea of letting people see us cleaning, which actual cleaning, of course, but we have to also think about our staff. So a few points I can add for cutbacks. If you're going to be facing a cutback, maybe ask for volunteers first. You know, who can cut back. Job sharing, another great point. I know you're all going to talk about these things. There's a lot of different markets out there, and some are still in, I guess, kind of the denial phase that, oh, well, this is not that bad, and we're in a remote rural area. Maybe they still have the restaurant open. Don't think it's a good idea. I think everyone's going to get that pretty soon. Now, some hotels are going to close. You know, if you have, I don't know, 100,000 rooms, probably more now in Las Vegas Strip area, they're just not needed. But I think about client I was just at a couple of months ago, the Helmsley Medical Center. They actually serve hospital patients coming for chemotherapy. They're going to be open. You think about the rural hospital, a hotel next to a rural hospital where there may be traveling physicians coming in if there's an outbreak, or there may be people coming to borrow the ventilators and ship them somewhere else. There may be tired truckers. There's a lot of displaced students. My last flight back, it was quite sad. My own daughter flew home from New York City at Florida in her senior year, canceled, you know, and so they're flying home. She's got her cat in the carry-on bag. There's a lot of people, you know, if you're a highway location, there's going to be some guests that need empathy, and our staff needs empathy. So I think empathy, kindness. If you notice the last show we did about the Heart of Hospitality, which is our, you know, certification program, the heart represents kindness, especially to strangers. And there's going to be some great stories. In fact, I'm going to ask at the end, if those of you who are open, please, Rupesh will figure out a way to get this, but I would love to get those hospitality hero stories of people that are going above and beyond for each other, for the guests. There's tremendous things happening right now for the hotels that are still open, and they need to be open for, you know, all, maybe not right now because we're all in the kind of social distancing space, but pretty soon, once we get past or we get further into this, there's going to be resources moving around. There's going to be National Guard. There's truckers, like we said. A lot of people are going to be eating at home, so there's going to be a lot of Publix trucks on the roads. They go to sleep somewhere. So we're gonna have a place depending on your hotel. I think those are really key points: is empathy, kindness, starting with the leaders, taking care of ourselves, Dr. Dougherty, so we can be a good leader, and being that flight attendant on the bumpy plane.
Right.
I'll pause and let you react to that, and I do want to talk about the ramp up phase because there will be.
Yeah, definitely. You know, empathy is a huge part of our business, and these stories that people have been sharing for years and years and generations, they're going to continue, and there are going to be some stories of just wonderful connections that people have made, people, strangers that they've never met in their entire life. You're doing something for them. So there are going to be those stories. I would love to hear those, and please share those with me, and I will definitely pass those on, because there are some people that have been making magic for the last, you know, generations, but we would love those stories, because that's what inspires all of us to continue growing in this business. And, you know, you might be sitting at home, but you still have that opportunity to go help somebody. If you're just sitting around and don't have anything to do, like Dr. Dougherty said, stop worrying about it. Go out and do things. Go out and inspire others. Maybe you have all this experience that working the front desk that maybe you can teach, like I'm doing right now, you know, with all this experience. I'm just sharing ideas with you guys, right? And I would hope for the same. Right. If you're kind of at a low occupancy, you have nothing to do, you know, there's so many opportunities out there to go mentor somebody at the front desk, or continue that relationship that you have with your front desk staff, that when you know when things are going to get better, guess what? They're going to trust you even more, because now you taught them something. And I love that, where you can teach people, and they don't have to be your connections. You can go out there and just talk about one specific topic that you're passionate about. And Doug, you're passionate about a lot of things. So thank you so much for joining us. I know there's a bunch of stuff on front desk training. Excuse me?
I want to go back and speak to the ramp up too before we move on.
Yeah. You know, there is going to be a ramp up. There is the light at the end of the tunnel which
Yeah.
I promise you guys, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, right? This is not going to last forever, and you have to keep a positive mindset. So Doug, what do you do when things do ramp up? Because guess what? I'm hoping that this is short-lived. I'm hoping that we get back up, and like the government's saying, we're gonna catch this, stop it, and we're gonna move on, and hopefully this helps the economy, because that's what we all need.
Well, let's talk about all that. I live in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. I cannot tell you how many times I've lived here most of my adult life. When we see the Category 5 storm coming right our way, and we have had Category 4 hit. Most of the time it dies to Category 3, it shifts, or it hits and life goes on. I lived here for Hurricane Andrew, and all the other ones. Life goes on. It's hard to imagine that, which goes back to, it was so valuable, the comments of self-care first. I got to tell you real quick, my wife is my personal hero. She works out every day at 5:30 a.m. The gym, LA Fitness, email, and we were going. There weren't many people at the gym, so it was social distancing. LA Fitness says no more gym. She's like, we're gonna go and buy our weight bench and do it at home. She doesn't even jog, but she was out at 5:30 this morning, and I said, that inspires me, and we have to now come on the show and inspire others. That's really important, because they're going to look to us. We're the leaders. David, you took time to be here today. You're actually living this right now with guests in your hotel. Rupesh, you're an owner. A lot of people a lot of us would like to go and crawl under a rock, but we can't do that. I have 15 employees here at KTN, and so there's a lot of people looking to us. Ramp up. There will be a ramp up. I am not that old, and to be I don't know, you want to go 1 to 5, David, on the generation. I'm not a 5, and I'm certain, or a 1, depending on which end you're going. I'm somewhere in the middle. I can tell you I've lived through a lot with my own entrepreneurial businesses. I started in my 20s. My very first year was the Persian Gulf War, the first Persian Gulf War. Here I am in my 20s getting a business going, dead in the water. Things kicked off from there. I had a very large international company. Literally the morning of 9/11, I had an 8:30 a.m. departure, ticketing to New York City to call on my biggest client, Starwood, continuing that day to Washington, D.C. I still have the ticket. Plane rerouted, and kind of like what you said, I met a lot of really interesting people on that flight. 6 of us banded together, rented the last car, which we had to call for a phone reservation because there was nothing online, and there were online bookings then. And we made it home, and I stayed in touch with those people for a lot of years. And then nothing happened for 2 months, okay? And I guess that's kind of the out. Well, we don't really know right now. There's plenty of other panels going on with medical experts, but 1 month, 6 weeks, 2 months, there's gonna be a period of time, and it's gonna be over. Then we gotta be ready. Stay in touch with those employees, the key people that your loyal ones that are that you stayed in touch with on Facebook. Stay in touch with your guests. If you're I don't know how much promotions we need to be doing right now, but more checking in on our guests. I see all these emails coming, like 5 paragraphs long, of what my remote company that does nothing essential is doing. Like, I think it needs to be personal messaging. And then, okay, so ramp up. First of all, a lot of people are still getting paid. They're working at home. They've got the kids there. They've got even just being there with just your spouse. We're going to be stir crazy, okay? Secondly, a lot of people are working overtime. Thank goodness for my niece that's a physician. Her spring break got canceled. I'm sure she's going to take a spring break eventually. My other niece is a nurse, so there's going to be people that are working. And then retired people. So if in the leisure business, I think we will tend to see a rebound even quicker. I have a lot of clients in the vacation home business. They're still going to have a good summer. There's going to be a lot of displacement. I don't want to wish anything bad on the cruise industry or international travel, but let's face it, that's going to be way down. Although inbound international travel is going to be way down, but outbound international travel, people are going to be saying, let's go check out a place that we've never been before here, it's drive distance or a short flight. So there's going to be travel. I remember Dr. Peter Yesowich said after 9/11, travel is a birthright in people's minds. So the leisure travel will come back. Business travel, once again, there's going to be a lot of accountants out there trying to figure out what's going on. There's going to be auditors and asset managers on the road. So the BT business, there will, hopefully Smurf business. I don't know about that so quick, but hopefully this fall we'll have sports teams traveling for smaller hotels. Meetings that have been postponed hopefully will happen. We don't really know, but at some point it's going to come back, and we want to be resilient. Resilience starts with building ourselves and our own self-care first thing in the morning, taking that walk, which are still allowed. My brothers in San Francisco, they are still allowed to walk, and you have to distance yourself. I went jogging last evening. I'll be going tonight. I talked to my people. We've had to do some cutbacks here. It hurts, but we will get through this. And, let's stay tuned. Let's stay positive. A lot of unknowns. Don't let your mind wander to worst cases. My wife and I had all plan A, plan B, plan C discussions, and we finished it up with, okay, we don't need to talk about this anymore. Let's go on with our lives.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
I can just add a really quick, very practical piece of advice in terms of ramp up that we're actually taking into consideration here. As we're closing down things, as we're ramping down, we're actually taking all the checklists that we're creating to ramp down and reversing them and creating them now so that when it's time to ramp up, we have something in place. Why? Because it probably won't be the same exact crew that broke down that's going to ramp up, right? Things are going to change, and we won't have the same number of employees, the same people in place. So we want to make sure we have something in place that's easy to look at, easy to understand. So when it's time to ramp up, places like the pool or the dining rooms, et cetera, right? So that's a pretty practical piece of advice you can put in now so that you have it in place later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Doug. These are great points. I think at the front desk, if you're a front desk manager, if you're a front desk associate, this is a time for you to learn, right? This is a time if you've been through this 20, 30 years ago, or if you're just starting out in the hotel business, this is your opportunity when things are slow to learn. Like that's this is something that's free, that we're lucky in this age where you have all these resources like this LinkedIn Live, like these great people like yourselves really coming onto the web and teaching people. There's so many free resources that you can go and learn. So my number one tip for the front desk is go learn something while things are slow. Don't just sit around and just be sad, but really be ahead of the game. So guess what? When the economy and this market, the hotel industry gets back into where it was, you'll be ready and you'll be ahead of the pack, which I love, right? So continue learning. There's so many free resources like a podcast, like these magazines that provide, like Doug writes every couple times a month on these different platforms online. Doug, what are some websites that you write for?
Hotel News Now, which is the STR. I write for Hotel Online, Hotel News Resource, for hoteliers, and HSMAI Insights. And hit us up on LinkedIn. You can find me, Doug Kennedy, Kennedy Training Network. I'm going to be putting out a lot, actually, because on the sales side, when there's going to be a lot of value-driven deal seekers out there, they're going to start off. If we start off with our best deal, they're going to be negotiating down from there. But that's all ahead. Right now, let's focus on empathy, kindness, heart, self-care first, care for the staff next, and make sure they care for the guests that we still have, because there's the ones that are still traveling. Once all the college students get home, and whatever mindset gets back from spring break, then the people that are traveling are going to be the ones that have essential jobs. We need to take care of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug, thank you so much for your information here. I think it's valuable for the empathy. It's valuable to continue learning. Now, we're talking about sales, and we bring Tammy Gillis on because that's what her company does, and that's what she supports the United States. And she's actually from Canada, Toronto. And you guys are feeling the same effect. You're seeing the downturn. You're seeing occupancies drop from where they were high occupancy to basically nothing, especially this weekend and moving forward. You teach hotels how, and when they don't have a sales team, how to get business. What can we do right now where the entire sales team is getting terminated, or they don't have a sales team and they don't know what to do because they haven't gotten started with sales, or they've never done sales at the hotel, and now they are struggling to find business from anywhere. Where can hotels find business from right now if they're open?
Thank you for setting that up so nicely, Rupesh. And I've been taking so many notes with all of these great collaborators, and I think that's what we do really well as an industry. So it may sound counterintuitive right now to be selling. And I think we have to be mindful when we're reaching out to clients that we're not, being smiling and dialing, or we're not reaching out to companies that are downsizing and going through difficult times. We don't want to cast a wide net, but we want to take a scalpel approach and be very precise and understand what industries are still traveling. And, Rupesh, you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. If that means 3 or 4 or 5 more rooms a night, right now, that's a big deal. So we've been reaching out to a lot of our third-party partners. The workforce segment, there are industries within the workforce segment that are still traveling. So we reached out to CLC, Travel Alliance. And when I say don't cast a wide net, reach out, in your backyard. Do you have traveling nurses? Are you near a hospital? Travel Alliance shared with us yesterday, there are sanitation crews that are going out to areas that need rooms and extended stay. So Del, you mentioned prior to the call, extended stay segment's doing really well. So there are people who need rooms. There are medical staff working long hours and not going home. And so when you are reaching out to these people, we have to do it with care. We can't be opportunistic, but we have to do a little bit of research, reach out to them and say, how can we help? Do you have displaced people? Do you have employees working long hours? Do you have crews coming in for shutdowns? So there are people traveling. The workforce segment, we were talking to some of our rail clients yesterday. They said business as usual. Our guys and gals are still on the road. So one thing that I want us all to be mindful for is as our bar rate fluctuates and we're looking at dropping that bar rate, we need to be really mindful of how that impacts our negotiated accounts. So for example, if you have flat rates and flat contracts, whether it's a flat rate with CLC or Travel Alliance, as your bar rate drops, that's going to compromise the discount that gets you into those preferred programs. So for example, CLC sent out a massive notice last week saying, listen, for clients that perhaps didn't want to be in the program because the discount's too deep, do you want to sign up? And also for existing clients, please make sure that you're still within that discount so you're capturing the room nights coming. Because if you don't have a dynamic rate off a bar and you're offering these companies a flat rate, then that discount, particularly with these third-party providers, could be compromised. So reach out because they are still traveling and they are actually allowing hotels to have a relief rate that's temporary. So even if you say to CLC, I'm willing to drop my rate and here it is, and it's for 60 days. Reach out because those few rooms a night can make all the difference. So my feedback is definitely be mindful when you're reaching out to your guests. And I'd also say, Doug, you commented on it, get ready for the ramp up and keep in touch with your existing clients who maybe aren't traveling at all, just to reach out and say, how are you being impacted? I understand you've had to lay off. We want you to know that we are going to be here for you when things return to normal. So show how you care. And I promise you, when all things come back to whatever the new normal is, they're going to remember you over the competition. So it's being really mindful of all of those things. And one last thing about the front desk, Doug, which I know you really spend so much time with your clients, is when those reservations are coming in, if you're still getting the phone's ringing with a lot of cancellations right now, but if you are getting bookings through brand discounts, OTA, someone's calling the front desk, our front desk needs to ask, what brings you to town? Because if they're coming in and I'm a sanitation crew or I'm coming in for the hospital, then there's probably more of those travelers. And that's where you take that laser focused approach. And it may sound counterintuitive because our owners are grappling with layoffs and stabilizing operations. If you can carve out some time to sell, this is how we can rise above all this noise.
Right, absolutely. Now, what are some sales strategies on the web, as far as like, what are some other websites that we can go to kind of search for maybe what's happening? You know, we're down right now. We don't know what to do, and we have the internet, right? We have the internet. So what are some resources on the internet where we can kind of go see what's coming to the market?
That's a great question. So for those of you that subscribe to BidClerk, and I am not paid by BidClerk, we use that as a sales tool big time, but we're using that daily. We're in and out of BidClerk because there's projects that are still happening. I would be Googling traveling nurses. There are a handful of associations that support traveling nurses. There are accommodation houses that help displaced people. Are there insurance companies? Look within your backyard and say, what are my demand generators? And are there vendors? Are there people that could be coming into my backyard? And we have to be mindful when we're reaching out to the medical segment because they are burdened right now. But can we be reaching out to the administration department within some of those hospitals and medical facilities to say, how can we help be the home away from home for some of your staff that's working overtime? And I'd say, you know, good old Google, and we personally use some prospecting tools like Lead Ferret, Zoom Info, but it is not a smile and dial approach. That is for sure. This is really also, and this is good old fashioned tricks that, you know, I've been talking about since the 90s, but check your parking lots of your competitors. Drive around and see what vehicles are in those hotel parking lots, because that's going to tell you the types of industries that are still traveling. That is low-hanging fruit. The challenge is it's carving out the time to do it. We've been talking with our owners and GMs all week, and they're trying to keep their heads above the water. So what can Night Audit do? Whomever is working Night Audit, can they be doing some of this research? Whomever is on your evening shift, how can you, you know, David, you mentioned that we're all going to be doing different jobs. So someone at the front desk, can they be doing some of this research and coming back and saying, listen, I prospected the hospitals and here's what they're telling us. I think we need to divide and conquer just to really capture whatever there is coming in the market. And then keep in touch with your existing clients. They will think of you when all of this blows over. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the time for you to connect, and not just sell them, because you want to be there as a support. You want to be there as their information, really, what's going on. Maybe you can be a resource to them as far as what's happening early on, and then as things get better, you can be, you can keep in touch with them, because I like to do business with people I know, like, and trust, and these are the people that I kept in touch with me. These are the people that I go to when I need something. So, it's not going out there just to sell, but hey, here are some things that can help you. And then I posted something this morning. It's hotel vendors out there. They're sending me crazy amounts of sales messages on LinkedIn. Guys, this is your opportunity to build a relationship with me, teach me something, maybe ease into the conversation of selling, but maybe show, here's 5 things right now you can do to start saving, or to help your employees, or help anybody at the property to improve, or just to give a different mindset. So, that's what we're here to do, is to kind of educate. And then eventually, guess what? Things are going to get better. And then you're going to have an opportunity to build a relationship and sell something or a service that you have. But right now, it's the opportunity to really build that relationship. And I think that's what sales is all about. It's that relationship that you kind of go back to when things are good, and then when things are bad too, right? You might go to that one person that you really trusted because they just kept in touch with you. And
yes,
that goes back to, like, insurance, that goes back to every kind of vendor that you talk to. Are they there to support you? Are they calling you back when you need them? Some of those things that are kind of tried and true and old school, really, at the end of the day, right? So, Tammy, thank you so much. I'm sure
my pleasure.
Tons of information that you can share with us as we continue ramping up, because I think we stay positive. Guess what? It's gonna get better. It's going to be good. We're gonna have this light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I believe. And I'm gonna continue staying positive, even though it continues slowing down, I'm going to say positive, because I think things are going to be good in the future. And here's some opportunities. When you're slowing down, maybe this is an opportunity for you to do some some preventative maintenance. So you need a maintenance team there, right, to kind of support you and keep the property clean. And maybe they turn into a security. If your hotel's shut down, guess what? You have time to now do some PM work. They can convert maybe to a security person where, hey, we need to protect our property. We need to make sure that there's no vandalism or any of that stuff that could go on when there is time of desperation in economies, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there, not just to cut, but really improve our property. And I wrote this article last year. I said, what are 10 things that you can do when the hotel's slow? And this is just one small thing that you can do. So Tammy, thank you so much for joining us. Great information. We talked to Dell. Dell, thank you so much for hosting this episode, man. I love that you guys are continuing to support me here on LinkedIn and this show. You've been doing it for months now, and I appreciate this because you're keeping basically the lights on, and I love that you're helping hotels too. You guys help 4,500 hotels in the United States optimize their payroll. We're not talking about payroll right now because we're in dire, desperate situation right now, uncertainty. What can you share as far as the people?
Sure. So we're helping, as you said, about 4,500 hotels and manage nearly 1 million employees right now, about $15 billion worth of labor investment that our clients entrust us with helping them manage. And we see this right now is challenging. It's a crisis that most people, as David was saying, most people have not experienced in our industry. Most people working in hotels today have never experienced a downturn, either a gradual or a crash like this. And we have to be very sensitive to this. So I really appreciated Dr. Cynthia's remarks earlier about this. And I'll say that what we advise overwhelmingly is to recognize that this is a people-powered business that provides a critical service when times are good and when times are bad. We give people a place to stay when they need it, when they're away from their homes. And right now, those people who are still traveling, they need us more than ever. And we always have to keep them centered because this crisis will pass and people's memories are long and they will remember this. The great Maya Angelou quote, people don't remember what you do, they don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. Well, this is about how you make people feel, your guests, your employees, your colleagues, and your neighbors. And so we have to remember that. So that's the preachy part of my advice. I have some very practical suggestions as well. Actually, one more preachy thing. Social distancing is it's very important for us, but we need to understand what that means is physical distancing, right? It doesn't mean we sever our ties to each other, to our community, to our coworkers, to our colleagues, and to our guests. This is not. It's about physical distancing, and we need to recognize that in everything we're doing, because otherwise we can start changing behaviors in profound ways that could really hurt us when things get better. So today, we give some advice. We talk about labor standards all the time. These are staffing guidelines that every hotel knows they should be using when they build their schedules. But a lot of times, especially in good times, they haven't needed to do that. They just staff like last week. They staff the way that, to past peaks, which allow them to make sure that they never have a guest waiting for a room to be cleaned. Well, that might be okay when business is booming, but now we're seeing that it's not okay at all. And what we need now is we need hotels to base their staffing models, to rethink their staffing models around what really drives the business and what they really need. This means they need to know what their productivity standards are. They need to have a standard for how many minutes per room for a clean, and then build housekeeping schedules, for example, based on that standard. This is the time to actually work on these things, to work on the way to optimize your labor investment so that you get that yield. It means that if you do this, yes, your staffing levels will be a lot lower. We're seeing about a 50% reduction in staffed hours this week versus last week. We expect that to further decline, but the smart hotels are doing this intentionally. They're not just cutting people left and right. That could really hurt them. time. Doing this really thoughtfully and with, frankly, a little bit of math behind it will help everyone. So build those standards, figure out those productivity benchmarks, and focus on those, and then tie your schedules and staffing models to what the business actually needs, not to some profit target or something like that, because that is the wrong thing. The return on the labor investment is productivity, right? It's output. It is measured in guest currency, guest satisfaction currency. That's what you need to always remember. Now, the reality is we're hurting right now. We're in financial difficulties, or we're heading that way. This is the time, this is some practical advice for managers. And I think both Doug and David mentioned this. You're being watched today. How we act today really matters. So when you communicate things like staffing cuts, shift cuts, they're going to want to know, they're going to be watching how you do this. And what you talk about is about preserving the guest experience, preserving the hotel, and preserving, frankly, as many jobs as you can. Be very sensitive to that. Don't suddenly start talking about things you never talked about before, like profitability. The industry's been talking about the guest experience now for 10 years. You suddenly start talking about profitability, what's going to happen is your team members are going to go, oh, so it's really always been about money, right? Money's important. We wouldn't do this business if it wasn't a profitable business. But this is not the time to suddenly change your whole orientation. If you do that, it's going to haunt you. So have those conversations about staffing levels, have those conversations about cut, invite your team members to help you solve those problems, and you're really going to benefit from that. So having said that, some thoughts about how to manage these difficult discussions. Share the pain. First, contract labor, everyone's been depending on that for the last several years. One of the benefits of contract labor is you can cut it fast. Go ahead and do that. Communicate with the vendors, let them know that you have to do that, and make that cut quickly. Share the pain among your existing staff members. Invite them to participate, but let them know that you need to actually, we all need to kind of kick in and show that you're doing the same thing. Right? When managers actually step up and start cleaning rooms, I think that actually does signal some good things, but make sure you're saying, I'm not doing this so that I don't have to pay you to do it. That's insensitive. And then, the other thing is, we've already talked about it a little bit, use the people you've got right now, certainly for the next month, to do the things that you can't do when you're full. The deep cleans of the rooms that are hard to get to, that are always sold out, the public spaces, do that preventative maintenance that you've been delaying, extend the life of the asset so that you're in a much better position when times are good. And by the way, tell the guests that you're doing this. Tell them you're investing so that when they return, when times are good, that they're going to have an even better, cleaner, more wonderful hotel. So I've got a bunch more, but I want to give that back to you, Rupesh.
Yeah, these are great tips. We want to just instinctively just cut everything and close the doors because that's what that's what we kind of jump to. We're like, yeah, we just start freaking out. But this is not the time to freak out. This is not the time to stress. Yeah, we are in a stressful period, but if we can ease our mind and really kind of come up with a plan, like a game plan, I think we'll feel a lot better because guess what? We can undo that game plan easily as things progress and as things get better. Del, thank you so much for joining us in this good conversation. I think we continue optimizing our payroll. So if you already haven't, there are some ways that we can shift people around instead of just firing everybody, laying everybody off. I don't know why I'm saying firing, but that's my mistake. We're laying people off. We're furloughing people. We are doing what we can to kind of meet the budget because I know the mortgage is due here at the end of the month, and there's a lot of expenses that we still have to pay for. If we don't sell a single room, we still have to pay for the basic electricity, the basic utilities. Cable they're just still charging us per room for the cable fees, right? There's a lot of fixed costs that are still coming up. Insurance is still coming up. We still have to pay for this. And a lot of hotels, especially the new ones that have been built recently, they have a huge expense. We have brand new properties that we built last year, and it cost us a lot of money to operate those properties, even without people staying with us, right? It's just those fixed costs that are kind of hurting us. And I feel the pain with everybody. It's not just one part of the industry, it's everybody. If you've been in business for 30 years or you just started, I think it's affecting everybody. And, these are some of the things that we can help each other out. thank you so much for everybody joining us, guys. If you found this useful, here's what we're going to do for the next couple of weeks or maybe a month or so, is we're going to continue improving how we can, as people, can help each other and improve. And I'm going to bring on some different experts like yourself to kind of help us get through this, because I can't get through this by myself. I'm in that same situation you guys are. There are days where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing here? Why am I feeling this way? And you know, we shouldn't be feeling this way, because guess what? There are people here to support us. They are here that there's people here to help us out, and you know, we can all help each other out. And there's people that feel like they're just alone by themselves. People have posted this week, I feel so lonely. And guys, you're not lonely. We're here for you. We're here to support you. We're here to help you through some of the painful struggles that you're going through. If you've been laid off or you don't know where to go as far as your next step, we are here to help you. I'm going to bring on some people that are going to maybe help you with your resume, where to look for a job, what other opportunities there are out there. Guess what? This one thing that you've been thinking about for 5 years, maybe you have that opportunity to do it as a side hustle, and maybe it turns into something bigger. You know, my thing is to continue. You have all this experience. Guess what? You can teach it to people. You could teach it to a community. You could teach it to your tribe, which I love, right? I love that you can build this thing online where you can help each other, and you don't have to be there in person. And, you know, there's some things that you can do for guests too, right? You know, there's a lot of guests that come back every week, every month, that stay with you. Keep in touch with them, because guess what? You want to be the first person they think about when things get better. And guess what? I've heard from so many people, so many corporations that, hey, this hotel didn't help me out because we had to cancel our event and now they're not letting us out of this contract. Guess what? This company is going to have their event back in the city, and you're going to lose on this opportunity because you treated them bad right now. People remember this, right? So if you're a hotel, you're a sales team, guess what? Remember that this is not the end. This is not like we're going to all die tomorrow and that's it. You still have this opportunity where we continue growing, and they're going to come back. These events are going to come back to your market. I'm in Orlando. We lost a ton of business the first week this thing was announced, but guess what? Those events are going to eventually come back, and they're going to think of who were the people that were there to support me, who were there to kind of get me through and help me out, help my company out, because I'm still with this company and I'm going to continue having my event and staying at these hotels. So it's our job in the hospitality industry really to keep building relationships, controlling our mind, right? And controlling and learning. That's the 3 things I think we can stop right now. You have to learn from these podcasts, learn from these articles that are coming through. So guys, I created a new hashtag, or not a new hashtag, but I think a hashtag that we all can kind of share and support, and it's hospitality strong. You know, you've heard of in the past where different industries, different businesses, different social platforms have used a hashtag. I think we use hashtag hospitality strong to connect with each other and to learn what people are going through. If you're going through a struggle, share it. You know, if you're going through whatever, share it. Let us know, because you're not on your own. And there it is right there. And I'm going to be posting a lot of resources, a lot of news, a lot of updates on this platform. So if you're not connected, please. And by the way, guess what? If there's other people that could learn from this, share this with them, and then have them connect with me on LinkedIn, and all of us here, and we're here to help and support and kind of just grow this. So David Arraya had to leave. He had a meeting. He's busy with his hotels, running his property. So I know I want to thank him. But Dr. Cynthia Dougherty, thank you so much. Any last words?
I think for me, there were 2 things. I used to live at the Ritz in Miami, and I know a lot of these employees have lived there forever. The concierges, the valets, and it was always we felt like we were a family. And so I think there's a lot of loss, not just because they're losing their job temporarily, but there is a bond and a camaraderie with a lot of hotel employees that we need to be really sensitive about too. And that's why I think getting groups together or just making sure people are okay is really important, because they're losing a family in a sense. I think you also have to, stress brings a lot to your body. So your immune systems are going to be weakened the more anxious and frightened you are at a time where we need to be building up immunity. And so I just think self-care, like you said, is vital. And I believe, listen, everyone's going to be tired of each other after being locked in for, for weeks and weeks at a time. So yeah, people are going to want to take vacations and holidays and get out. And I think ramp up is important. So people can be starting planning activities that they want to do and where they'd like to go when they, because sometimes some of these kids are not going to be going back to school, but the virus will be gone. It'll be a great time for families to take some wonderful trips. So.
Yeah, and it's always fun to dream because that's what makes life interesting, right?
We manifest things by our emotions. So I think that's so critical for people to understand.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tammy, any last words?
I think just to hold the line and protect your revenue, carve out some time every day for some purposeful sales. Be mindful, reach out with care, protect the customers that are coming, think of that ramp up so when they return, they think of you. And again, take that scalpel approach to those companies still traveling because that can help you hold the line.
Yeah, great suggestions there. I love everything you've shared here. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Doug Kennedy, any last words?
Remember the heart of hospitality, human kindness to strangers, for the hotels that are still open, for the hotels that have had to make tough decisions already, stay in touch with your staff, be kind to your staff. And for all of us, take a deep breath. We'll get through this and let's be ready for the ramp up. Whenever it comes, it will come.
Thank you, Doug, for joining us. Del Ross, thanks. Any last words?
Sure. I'm reminded of a quote from the great philosopher Mike Tyson. He said that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And today that's what's happened. Just a few weeks ago, we were basically talking about a slight downturn maybe, or a tapering off of revenues, and how are we going to fill the million unfilled jobs in the industry. It's a very different place we're in right now. So people need to be thoughtful. They need to have a plan. They need to actually step back and recognize the purpose of why we're here in the first place, what our business is about. And they need to recognize that, yes, people remember this stuff. This is a business that's fundamentally about trust. If people didn't trust us, they wouldn't stay with us. Now is the time to exhibit trust in everything we do. At Hotel Effectiveness, we are preparing a guide of things that every hotel can be doing to both manage their labor investment, manage their people, as well as the revenue side. We're all hotel people here. I actually was responsible for revenue generation for most of my career for thousands of hotels, and we have been through this before in various forms. So we're going to be preparing some information. Rupesh, I'll share that with you so you can share it. This is going to be for everybody, things that everyone can do to just get through this crisis and prepare themselves for the inevitable recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. If you've loved this conversation, you like this conversation, you would like more of these conversations, hit the like button right now. Comment that you enjoyed it so we can continue this education and this platform for you. I do this out of I love this stuff. I breathe this stuff. I run our hotels every day. I'm a part of this business for the longest time, and I want to continue sharing these ideas with you. So guys, if you've loved and enjoyed this episode, please comment and hit the like button and share it with the rest of your team. And guess what? We're going to continue growing, and we are going to do this together. We're going to bounce back. We're going to get over this. I promise you that's going to happen. We don't know when, but it will happen. And guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time. I'll see you next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. And we're going to bring on somebody fantastic, or maybe just a group of people. And thank you to the special guest here today. This was like a last minute thing that we threw together in the last less than 24 hours. And guys, I appreciate you guys. Best of luck. Be safe. And at the end of the day, just care, right? That's all we care about. So just care.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you. All right, guys. What did you think about this conversation? I loved that we had so many great people, passionate people that were on. And, this is about all of us just growing and connecting with each other. And guess what? We're not in it. We're not in this by ourselves, but we're here together to support each other. Guys, thank you so much. Hit the like button. Let's continue this conversation next week. And by the way, I'm going to be, like I said earlier, I'm going to be sharing a lot of these great insights that are going to help you grow personally for your career, right? Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Bye. By the way, this this episode is brought to you by Hotel Effectiveness and their PerfectLabor platform. Thank you so much to Dell and the entire team at Hotel Effectiveness. Guys, talk to you next week.